Okay, a topic that comes up a lot is sport specific training. Okay, so this topic comes up a lot, especially with high school athletes. I'll get a lot of people reaching out, trying to get better, get prepared for college, or to perform well enough in high school that so they can go on to play in college. Um, and this is a topic that came up recently in my master's program, and it can bring up a lot of kind of, triggers for maybe a trainer like myself, where, it makes you think about the overly sport specific kind of approaches, or, all the functional stuff that is supposed to make you more athletic. So I figured this would be a subject that we could talk about, and a lot of people might have some questions about. When it comes to sport-specific training, it is, you know, despite maybe what some people in my profession might want to think or say, it is most beneficial for you to get good at the sport. Okay, so yeah, sport specific training is important. Okay, you can get as strong and as fast as you want, but if you can't shoot the basketball and that's your sport, then you're probably going to suck, right? So there are certain things that you have to really get good at and prioritize getting good at in each sport that might be more important than worrying about your 40-yard time. Football, I played tight end. If I couldn't block properly, or if I couldn't catch the ball, it wouldn't matter what my 40 time was or how many times I bench pressed 225, because I couldn't catch the damn ball and I couldn't hold the block, so I wasn't any good anyway. So who cares how strong I was, right? So sport specific development, getting the skills that you need for that sport developed, is going to be by far the biggest payout for your performance, right? And that doesn't get me a ton of clients, because I train in a gym setting that primarily focuses on gaining strength. But truth be told, if you're a young athlete, you need to put in the time to developing your sports skill. Okay, my nephew that just got recruited and signed to play at Boise State, he's blessed enough to have a hoop and a really good like rebounding system for him at his house, to where he takes thousands of shots a week. Okay, and that's why he's so damn good, because he's put in the work in the sport specific skill. But there is a point in every sport where, if you are truly athletic enough and you have put in enough time to develop the skill, that you're going to kind of plateau. Okay, and that is, in my opinion, where the strength training and going above and beyond takes you to the next level. Okay, so let's say you're a sprinter, okay, and you do high school track and field, and you get really good, and you run and you run and you run. There's going to be a point where you can't get any faster by just running. Okay, you can make your form better, you can fix your mechanics, because if you run like a fish out of water, you're obviously not going to be fast. That's inefficient. So fixing your form is going to be the biggest thing you can do. Gaining muscular endurance for that race, and maybe general endurance depending on whatever distance you're doing, right? That's going to be the first payout for performance. But you're going to hit a point where your form's good, you run well, you have good conditioning, but you're not getting any faster. Okay, so that's where you need to really, really prioritize hitting the weights, right? Because our muscles are what make us move, and they cause joint action and move our bones, right? Muscle. So if we put on more muscle at that point, that's when we break through those plateaus and thresholds. But it has to be a healthy relationship. We have to have that sport specific skill. But when we hit that plateau point, I've seen this a lot of times. People get really good to a certain point, and then they don't go any further because they kept on doing just the sport. Okay, and that can apply to a lot of sports. You get really good and technical with the sport. My nephew Jace, like I said, shooting thousands of shots a week. If he would have never hit the weight room and put on some weight and got thicker, then he wouldn't be jumping as high as he is. He wouldn't have the muscular endurance that he has, and he wouldn't have the size to play at a college level, right? So there comes a point where developing that skill is gonna also kind of plateau. And so you have to add in the weights to develop yourself farther. And that gets neglected. And I would say that's maybe my biggest complaint about some of these places that are just like sport specific training facilities is that they really work on, form and technique, and they do drills and do all those kind of things, but they don't possess the equipment to overload someone's muscles properly to develop them and to get stronger and break through those plateaus. So, if you have a young kid who really just needs that coordination and technical skill, maybe that's a great place for him. But if you have a college athlete or a late high school athlete that has gotten pretty good at those technical skills but is scrawny or has hit a plateau on a sprint time, that's time you need to hit the weights and really develop some size and strength, hypertrophy, hyperplasia, and that's what's going to really start shaving off the times at that point. It's not to say that you don't implement weight training until you hit that plateau. I'm just saying that's when it's going to become the more of the difference maker in your performance. So sport specific training has, great uses. I think it gets blurred a lot. Those lines it gets kind of thrown out as a catch-all. You see kids in high school gyms throwing up hang clings and clean and jerks, throwing, weights over their head, all in the name of being sport specific. That's bullshit. Okay. So in my opinion, feel free to argue with me about this, but no high school kid should be throwing weight over their head, doing clean and jerks. Don't tell me that shit's explosive and gonna make them more powerful. There's a rule of specificity. Okay. So most people aren't performing motions in a vertical plane like the clean and jerk and throwing it over their head. They don't do that. Okay. Tell me what sport they're doing that in. They're not. Okay. So they can do better to train in the plane that they're going to. They're going to get more vertical translation in a basketball setting and a jumping sport, volleyball, to do a back squat. They're going to get better overload. They're going to do better for sprinting to do barbell hip thrust because that's in the horizontal plane. Okay, so that's where it kind of gets me pissed off and I get on the soapbox is these lines get thrown out of, oh, this is sport specific, it's explosive. You know what? It's stupid. So you need to really decide what is specifically going to help you for that sport. Some things like adding weight where it doesn't need to be, trying to shoot a weighted ball like that's going to make your basketball shot better. That's stupid. Okay. Some stuff requires skill. Some stuff requires technique. Not everything needs to be weighted and ultra sport specific. Okay. So that's my tangent about sport specific training. Any extra questions or want like a particular tip on a certain sport, drop it in the comments and I'll let you know.